Dr. Sarah Chen pushed her thick glasses up her nose as she studied the massive creature pacing behind the energy barrier. The Vorthak prisoner was 8 feet tall, covered in midnight black fur, with gleaming silver fangs and eyes like molten gold. Every other researcher at the Galactic Science Station had given this specimen a wide berth, but Sarah found herself fascinated. The creature had been captured after single-handedly destroying 3 Federation warships. The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as the most savage warriors ever encountered. They fought with primitive weapons but possessed supernatural speed and strength that made them nearly unstoppable in close combat. This particular specimen, designated Subject 847, had killed 17 Federation soldiers before being subdued with heavy tranquilizers. Sarah approached the containment field with her datapad, ignoring the nervous glances from her colleagues. The alien stopped pacing and fixed those burning eyes on her. Most beings cowered under that gaze, but Sarah simply adjusted her glasses and began taking notes. "Fascinating bone structure," she murmured to herself. "The muscle density must be incredible to generate that kind of power output." The Vorthak tilted his massive head, ears twitching. Sarah realized he was listening to her commentary with what appeared to be curiosity rather than rage. She had studied dozens of alien species, but none had shown such intelligence behind their predatory instincts. "You understand me, don't you?" she asked softly. The creature's lips pulled back in what could have been a snarl, revealing those deadly fangs, but something in his expression seemed almost amused rather than threatening. Sarah made another note on her pad. Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's xenobiology director, appeared at her shoulder. "Chen, what are you doing? That thing is incredibly dangerous." "He's not a thing," Sarah replied without looking away from the alien. "He's clearly sentient and possibly more intelligent than we've given his species credit for." Webb scoffed. "The Vorthak are savage beasts. They've been terrorizing the outer colonies for decades. This one killed good soldiers. In self-defense," Sarah pointed out. "His ship was attacked first. We fired on him." The Vorthak's ears perked up at her words, and he moved closer to the barrier. Up close, Sarah could see old scars crisscrossing his fur, evidence of countless battles. But she also noticed something else, a small tattoo-like marking on his shoulder that looked almost like writing. "Look at this," she said, zooming in with her scanner. "These markings aren't random. They're symbols. He has a written language." Webb frowned. "Probably just ritual scarification, primitive markings." Sarah shook her head. "No, these are too precise, too organized." She looked up at the alien, who was watching her with intense focus. "What's your name?" The creature's mouth opened, and a deep, rumbling sound emerged. It wasn't quite human speech, but there was definitely structure to it. Sarah's universal translator struggled for a moment before producing a rough approximation. Kale, Thunderfang, of the Moon Hunter pack. Webb stepped back in shock. "It can talk?" "He can talk," Sarah corrected, "and he just told us his name." She smiled at Kyle. "I'm Sarah, Dr. Sarah Chen." Kyle's head tilted again, and he made another rumbling sound. "Sar-ah, soft claw who sees beyond fear." Sarah felt a thrill of excitement. This was the first recorded conversation with a Vorthak. She was making history. "Can you tell me about your people?" she asked. Kale's golden eyes narrowed. "Why does the small fur one ask? To find weakness for the Star Hunters to exploit." "No," Sarah said firmly. "I want to understand. I study different species to learn about them, not to hurt them." For a long moment, Kale stared at her. Then he sat down, his massive form still towering over her even while seated. "The Star Hunters come to our worlds," he said slowly. "They take our young. They steal our sacred places. We fight to protect what is ours." Sarah's heart sank. She had suspected the Federation's expansion into Vorthak territory hadn't been entirely peaceful, but this was the first confirmation of their aggressive tactics. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "That's not right." Webb grabbed her arm. "Chen, you can't apologize to a terrorist." Kale's eyes flashed dangerously at Webb's tone. "The fat, soft one speaks of terror, Your people bring death from the sky. We bring honor in battle. Let go of me, Sarah told Webb firmly. When he released her, she turned back to Kyle. Not all humans are the same. Some of us believe in peace. You are not like the others, Kyle observed. You have no fear scent, no hate scent, only curiosity scent. Sarah blinked. You can smell emotions? All strong scents tell stories, Kale replied. Your scent speaks of seeking truth, learning hunger. He paused. It reminds me of my sister before the Star Hunters took her. The pain in his voice was unmistakable. Sarah felt her throat tighten with sympathy. How old was she? 12 seasons. Still learning the hunt songs. Kale's massive hands clenched into fists. She wanted to study the star patterns like the old wise ones. But the Star Hunters said our children would be better as workers in their metal caves. Slaves, Sarah whispered, horrified. She looked at Webb, who had gone pale. They're taking children as slaves. Webb cleared his throat uncomfortably. The colonization program requires labor assistance from local populations. Sarah stared at him in disgust. You mean slave labor? Now see here, Chen. No wonder they're fighting us, Sarah interrupted. We're stealing their children. Kyle had been watching this exchange with growing interest. The small fur one truly did not know. I had no idea, Sarah said honestly. Most humans don't know what's really happening out here. Then perhaps, Kale said slowly, there is hope for peace between our peoples after all. Over the following weeks, Sarah spent every free moment talking with Kale. What started as scientific curiosity had evolved into genuine friendship. She learned that the Vorthak were not the savage beasts portrayed in Federation propaganda, but a proud warrior culture with deep spiritual beliefs and strong family bonds. Kyle taught her about the hunt songs, epic poems that preserved their history and guided their moral code. In return, Sarah shared human literature and scientific discoveries. She was amazed by how quickly Kale absorbed complex concepts, often making connections that even trained scientists missed. Your people think in straight lines, Kale observed one day, as Sarah explained quantum physics. But the universe moves in circles and spirals. Energy flows like water, not like the metal paths your machines follow. Sarah paused in her explanation, struck by his insight. You're right. We do tend to think linearly. But quantum mechanics is actually more like what you're describing. Because small things do not follow the same rules as big things. Kale nodded. The wise ones taught this long ago. They said the spirits of atoms dance to different music than the spirits of stars. That's actually a remarkably accurate way to describe quantum behavior, Sarah said, making notes furiously. Your wise ones understood quantum theory? Not with metal tools and number marks like you, Kale replied. But they watched the dancing lights in the deep caves, the ones that appear and vanish without reason. They knew the smallest spirits were different. Sarah realized he was describing quantum phosphorescence, a phenomenon human science had only recently discovered. These wise ones, are they still alive? Kale's expression darkened. The Star Hunters destroyed the sacred grove where they lived. They said it was primitive superstition that needed to be cleared for proper development. They destroyed your university, Sarah whispered, horrified. Your center of learning. You understand, Kale said with surprise. Most of your kind see only claws and fangs when they look at us. Because they're afraid, Sarah replied. Humans fear what they don't understand. But I've always believed understanding is better than fear. Their conversations had not gone unnoticed. Dr. Webb grew increasingly concerned about Sarah's attachment to the prisoner, and several colleagues whispered about her spending so much time with the dangerous alien. But Sarah didn't care. Every day brought new revelations about Vorthak culture and intelligence. She discovered they had advanced metallurgy, creating alloys that were lighter and stronger than anything humans produced. Their medicine relied on bioengineered fungi that could heal wounds in hours rather than days. Most remarkably, they had developed a form of biotechnology that used living organisms instead of mechanical devices. Your bone claws, Sarah said one day, gesturing to the retractable talons that emerged from Kale's fingertips. They're not entirely natural, are they? Kale looked impressed. You see much, Sarah, friend. The claws are gifts from the life shapers. They grow them in harmony with our bones, making us stronger without losing what makes us ourselves. Bioengineering, Sarah breathed, but completely organic. No rejection issues, no mechanical failures. Your people replace their bodies with dead metal, Kale observed. This seems strange to us. Why not grow new life instead of building new death? Sarah thought about the various cybernetic implants common in human society. Kale was right. They were essentially dead materials forced to integrate with living tissue. The Vorthak approach was far more elegant. I think humans stopped believing in the possibility of harmony between technology and nature, she said thoughtfully. We see them as separate things. Because you think in straight lines, Kyle reminded her gently. But life flows in circles. What you call technology, we call guided evolution. Their philosophical discussions were interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the station. Sarah's communicator crackled to life. All personnel to emergency stations. Vorthak fleet approaching. This is not a drill. Kale's ears flattened against his skull. They come for me. Who? Sarah asked, though she already knew. My pack brothers. They will not leave me to die in a cage. Through the station's viewports, Sarah could see the approaching ships. Unlike the sleek Federation vessels, these looked almost grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse with life. Dr. Webb's voice echoed through the corridors. Prepare for battle stations. The Savage fleet is moving to attack. They're not savages, Sarah said firmly to Kale. And this doesn't have to be a battle. Kale looked at her with something like hope in his golden eyes. You would speak for peace, Sarah friend? If they'll listen to me, Sarah replied. Will they? For the soft claw who showed kindness to Kale Thunderfang. They will listen. He paused. But first you must understand something important about my people. We do not abandon our packmates ever. If they cannot take me with them, they will die trying. Sarah felt ice in her stomach. The station's weapons were powerful enough to destroy the approaching fleet. But she knew the Vorthak would fight to the last ship rather than retreat. Hundreds would die on both sides. There has to be another way, she muttered, pacing back and forth. There is, Kale said quietly. But it requires trust. What do you mean? Kale stood and moved to the barrier's edge. Lower the containment field, Sarah friend. Let me speak to my pack brothers. I will tell them what I have learned about humans. About you, Sarah stared at him. I can't do that. They'll court-martial me for releasing a prisoner. And if the battle happens, hundreds will die, Kale replied. Including many of your station pack. Is your career worth more than their lives? Sarah closed her eyes, weighing her options. She thought about everything she had learned about the Vorthak, about Kyle's honor and intelligence. Then she thought about the approaching battle and all the unnecessary death it would bring. She reached for the containment field controls. Sarah, what are you doing? Dr. Webb had appeared behind her, flanked by security guards. Something that should have been done weeks ago, Sarah replied, her finger hovering over the deactivation switch. I'm choosing trust over fear. The security guards raised their weapons, but Sarah had already made her choice. She pressed the button, and the energy barrier flickered and died. The moment the containment field dropped, Kyle could have easily killed everyone in the room. Instead, he stepped calmly out of his prison and placed one massive hand gently on Sarah's shoulder. Trust given freely is the greatest gift between peoples, he said solemnly. Then he turned to the terrified security guards. I give my word as Thunderfang that no harm will come to any station dweller while I draw breath. Dr. Webb stammered orders for the guards to shoot, but they hesitated. Something about Kale's bearing, his obvious restraint despite his freedom, made them uncertain. Please, Sarah said, stepping between Kale and the weapons. Let him try to prevent this battle. What do we have to lose? Our lives, for starters, Webb snapped. That thing could tear us apart. My name is Kale, the Vorthak said firmly. And if I wished harm to come to Sarah friend or her packmates, would I not have acted when the barrier fell? The guards exchanged glances. Their training said to shoot the escaped alien, but their instincts told them this creature meant no immediate threat. Kale moved to the communications console. I must speak to my pack brothers before they reach weapon range. Sarah friend, will you help me? Sarah pushed past the confused guards and began activating the long-range transmitter. What frequency do your ships use? We sing to each other on the wind voices, Kale replied. Your machines call them ultra-low frequencies. Sarah adjusted the settings, her fingers flying over the controls. Within moments, she had established a connection with the approaching fleet. The speakers filled with a sound like distant thunder mixed with whale song. Kyle responded in kind, his deep voice producing harmonics that seemed to resonate in Sarah's bones. The alien conversation lasted several minutes, with tones shifting from urgent to questioning to something that sounded almost like laughter. "What are you telling them?" Webb demanded. "I tell them of the small fur one who sees with eyes unclouded by fear," Kale replied. "I tell them of her kindness, her hunger for understanding rather than conquest. I tell them that not all star hunters are enemies." The response from the fleet grew more complex, with multiple voices joining the conversation. Sarah realized she was listening to what amounted to a democratic debate conducted entirely in harmonic frequencies. "Your people make decisions collectively," she observed. "The pack mind is stronger than any single will," Kyle agreed. "But it must be convinced, not commanded." The debate continued for nearly an hour while the Federation fleet prepared for battle. Sarah could see through the viewports that both sides had weapons locked and ready. One wrong move would trigger a devastating firefight. Finally, the Vorthak communications settled into a single sustained note that seemed to vibrate through the station's hull. Kale's ears perked up and he made a similar sound in response. "They agree to hear words of peace," he announced, "but they require proof that Sarah Friend speaks truth about human honor." "What kind of proof?" Sarah asked. Kyle turned to face her, his golden eyes serious. "They wish to meet with you face to face aboard their ship. You would be their guest under pack protection." Webb immediately began sputtering objections. "Absolutely not. I won't allow you to throw your life away on some savage ritual." "It's not a ritual," Sarah said quietly. "It's diplomacy." She looked at Kale. "If I go with them, will they listen to proposals for peace?" "They will listen," Kale promised. "The pack leaders are wise. They know that endless war serves no one's young." Sarah thought about the children Kale had mentioned, both human and Vorthak, growing up in the shadow of this conflict. She thought about the scientific discoveries being lost to violence, the potential for cooperation between species. "I'll go," she decided. "Sarah, no," Webb pleaded. "Think about what you're doing. These aliens are our enemies." "No," Sarah replied firmly. "They're people defending their homes and families from what they see as invaders." "There's a difference." She began gathering her research materials, including all her notes on Vorthak culture and technology. If she was going to negotiate peace, she needed evidence of their advanced capabilities. Kale watched her preparations with something like admiration. "You risk much for peace, Sarah Friend. Your pack leaders will not approve." "Sometimes doing the right thing means disappointing your superiors," Sarah replied. "My job is to study and understand alien species. How can I do that if we're constantly at war with them?" The communications console crackled again, and Kale responded with a series of low rumbles. "They send a small craft to collect us. It will dock at the station's lower port." "Us?" Sarah asked. "You do not think I would let you face the pack leaders alone?" Kale's fanged grin was surprisingly warm. "Besides, I must formally present you to my people. It is the way of things." Dr. Webb made one last desperate attempt to stop them. "I am ordering you to remain on this station, Dr. Chen. As your superior, I forbid you from leaving." Sarah looked at him sadly. "Then I guess I quit." She handed him her Federation identification badge and followed Kale toward the docking bay. Behind them, she could hear Webb frantically calling for security reinforcements. But the guards seemed reluctant to interfere with what was clearly a diplomatic mission. The Vorthak shuttle was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. It looked grown rather than built, with flowing organic lines and a hull that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. As they approached, an opening appeared in its side, expanding like a dilating pupil. "Biomechanical engineering," Sarah breathed. "The entire ship is alive." "All our greater works are partnerships between mind and life," Kyle explained. "This ship friend has served my pack for 3 generations. She knows the way home even in the deepest void." They stepped inside and Sarah gasped. The interior was warm and humid, with walls that glowed softly from within. It felt more like being inside a vast organism than a spacecraft. "Is she truly alive?" Sarah asked, running her hand along what felt like a breathing wall. "As alive as you or I," Kyle confirmed. "She dreams while we travel, and sometimes shares her visions with those she trusts." The ship launched without any sensation of movement, the biological systems providing perfect inertial compensation. Through transparent patches in the hull, Sarah watched the Federation station shrink behind them. "Are you afraid?" Kale asked gently. Sarah considered the question honestly. She was about to board an alien warship, surrounded by beings her own species considered monsters. By all rights, she should be terrified. Instead, she felt exhilarated. "No," she said with surprise. "I'm excited. I'm about to become the first human to see the inside of a Vorthak ship, to meet your leaders, maybe even to help end this war. This is what I've always dreamed of doing." Kyle's rumbling laugh filled the shuttle. "Then you are truly pack-friend material, Sarah Chen. Welcome to the great hunt for peace." The Vorthak flagship was magnificent beyond anything Sarah had imagined. The massive bioship stretched for kilometers, its hull rippling with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to communicate with the smaller vessels surrounding it. As their shuttle approached, Sarah could see the ship was not just alive but actively growing, with new sections sprouting from the main body like branches on a cosmic tree. "She is ancient," Kale said with reverence. "The heart of the pack has carried our people for over 1,000 years. She was grown from a seed ship that carried the first Vorthak to these stars." Sarah stared in wonder as they entered a docking chamber that dilated open to receive them. The walls pulsed with a warm, organic rhythm, and she could hear something that sounded almost like a heartbeat echoing through the structure. "Your entire fleet is alive," she whispered. "Why would we trust our lives to dead metal and cold circuits?" Coyle asked. "Life protects life. The ship friends care for us and we care for them." As they disembarked, Sarah found herself surrounded by dozens of Vorthak warriors. These were even larger than Kale, their black fur marked with intricate patterns of scars and tattoos that told stories of battles and achievements. Their golden eyes studied her with intense curiosity, but she sensed no hostility, only careful evaluation. One particularly massive Vorthak stepped forward, his fur silver with age and his eyes bearing the weight of command. Scars crisscrossed his muzzle, and his left ear was torn from some ancient battle. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of absolute leadership. "I am Thorin Battleheart, Pack Alpha of the Moon Hunters. You are the soft one who showed kindness to our Kale." Sarah straightened her shoulders and met his gaze directly. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist. And yes, I've had the honor of learning from Kale about your people." A murmur ran through the assembled warriors. Several seemed impressed that she hadn't cowered before their leader. "She shows no fear scent," one commented to another. "And she calls learning from Kale an honor," added a third. Thorin's scarred face remained impassive. "Kale speaks of your desire for peace between our peoples. Why should we trust the word of a star hunter? Because I've seen what both our species are capable of," Sarah replied honestly. "I've learned about your medicine, your technology, your wisdom, and I've also learned about the Federation's recruitment practices in your territories." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Several warriors growled low in their throats at the mention of the forced labor programs. "You know of the child-taking?" Thorin said, his voice deadly quiet. "I know," Sarah confirmed, "and I'm ashamed that my people have done such things. But not all humans support these policies. Many of us would be horrified if we knew the truth." An elderly female Vorthak pushed through the crowd. Her fur was white with age and her eyes held depths of sorrow that made Sarah's heart ache. "I am Vera Softheart, lore keeper of the lost wisdom," she said. "Show me this human who speaks of shame for her people's actions." Sarah felt herself being studied by ancient, knowing eyes. Vera circled her slowly, sniffing delicately at the air around her. "No lie scent," Vera announced. "No hate scent. She carries the scent of genuine sorrow for pain not of her making." The old female's voice softened. "And something else. Something I have not smelled in many seasons." "What is it, Lorekeeper?" Thorin asked. "Hope," Vera replied simply. "She smells of hope for tomorrow." Sarah found herself deeply moved by the old Vorthak's words. "I do have hope. I believe our peoples could accomplish amazing things together instead of destroying each other." "Pretty words," growled a younger warrior. "But the Star Hunters have taken my mate and cubs. What hope is there for those already lost?" Sarah felt her heart clench at the pain in his voice. "I don't know if we can save those who have already been taken, but maybe we can prevent others from being lost." She pulled out her research pad and activated a holographic display. "I've been studying your technology, your culture, your achievements. Look at what you've accomplished." The hologram showed the biomedical advances she had documented, the elegant metallurgy, the sophisticated biotechnology. The assembled Vorthak watched with interest as their achievements were laid out with scientific precision. Your people have developed solutions to problems humans have struggled with for centuries, Sarah continued. Renewable energy sources, sustainable manufacturing, medical techniques that could save millions of lives, and we have technologies that could complement yours. She switched to another display showing human achievements. Our quantum computers, our faster-than-light communications, our theoretical physics. Imagine what we could create together. Thorin studied the displays thoughtfully. You propose alliance where your leaders offer only subjugation. I propose friendship, Sarah corrected. Trade agreements, scientific exchanges, cultural sharing, both our peoples could benefit enormously. And what of the children already taken? The grieving warrior demanded. Sarah met his eyes directly. Part of any peace agreement would have to include their return. No negotiation without that condition. A rumble of approval ran through the crowd. Even the skeptical warriors seemed impressed by her stance. Vera Softheart stepped closer to Sarah. You would make this demand of your own people? For the sake of our young? Yes, Sarah said without hesitation. Because it's the right thing to do. Thorin raised his hand for silence. If we were to consider peace, what assurance could you give that the Star Hunters would honor such agreements? Sarah felt the weight of the question. She was just one human, a scientist with no political power or military authority. What could she possibly guarantee? I can't speak for the Federation government, she admitted. But I can promise to return to human space and tell everyone who will listen about what I've learned here. About your intelligence, your achievements, your rights as sentient beings. I can make them understand that you're not the monsters they think you are. And if they refuse to listen? Thorin pressed. Sarah thought carefully before answering. Then I'll find people who will. Scientists, academics, journalists, politicians who believe in doing what's right. I'll build support for peace one person at a time if I have to. Kale stepped forward. Pack Alpha. This human spent weeks learning our ways when she could have simply studied us like specimens. She treated me with respect and kindness when others saw only a dangerous beast. If any Star Hunter can bring peace, it is Sarah, friend. Thorin looked around at his warriors, reading their expressions and scent signs with the skill of long leadership. Finally, he turned back to Sarah. We will consider your words, Dr. Sarah Chen, but first you must see the full truth of what your people have done to ours. Only then can you understand what peace truly costs. Sarah nodded solemnly. I'm ready to see whatever you need to show me. Are you? Vera asked gently. Some truths once seen cannot be forgotten. Then maybe it's time someone remembered them, Sarah replied. How else can we make sure they never happen again? Vera Softheart led Sarah through corridors that pulsed with living light, past chambers where Vorthak cubs played under the watchful eyes of their elders. The sight of the children with their oversized ears and playful tumbling made Sarah's heart ache as she thought of those who had been stolen from their families. We keep the memory crystals in the heart chamber, Vera explained as they walked. All our pain, all our losses, preserved so that future generations will understand the cost of war. The heart chamber was a vast, spherical room at the center of the ship, its walls lined with what looked like living crystal formations. Each crystal pulsed with its own inner light, and Sarah could somehow sense the emotions contained within them. These are more than recordings, she realized. They're actual memories. The ship friend preserves the experiences of our people, Vera confirmed. Joy and sorrow alike become part of her consciousness. Touch the sorrow crystals, young scientist. See what your Federation has brought to our worlds. Sarah approached one of the darker crystals hesitantly. The moment her fingers made contact, the chamber around her dissolved into vivid memory. She stood on an alien world under twin suns, watching as Federation ships descended from the sky. The landscape was beautiful, with crystalline trees that chimed in harmony with the wind and settlements that seemed to grow organically from the living rock. Vorthak families emerged from their homes, curious rather than afraid. These were not the fierce warriors she had met, but peaceful farmers and artisans. Children hid behind their parents' legs, peering out with golden eyes full of wonder at the strange visitors. The Federation soldiers who emerged from the landing craft wore full combat armor and carried heavy weapons. Their leader, a human officer Sarah didn't recognize, stepped forward with a translator device. By order of the Federation Colonial Authority, this world is hereby designated for human settlement, the officer announced. All indigenous populations will be relocated to designated areas for their own protection. An elderly Vorthak, his fur silver with age, stepped forward. "This is our home," he said in halting human speech. "Our ancestors sleep beneath these stones. Please, we wish only to live in peace. Resistance to relocation will be met with appropriate force, though," the officer replied coldly. "You have 24 hours to gather your belongings." Sarah watched in horror as the scene unfolded. When the Vorthak tried to explain that their sacred groves could not be moved, that their entire culture was tied to this specific place, the soldiers responded with increasingly aggressive threats. The memory shifted, showing the forced evacuation. Families were torn apart as children were deemed suitable for education and integration into human society. Sarah watched parents fight desperately to keep their young ones, only to be beaten down by soldiers who saw them as animals rather than sentient beings. She saw the sacred groves burned, ancient wisdom literally going up in smoke. She watched as the Vorthak were herded into transport ships like livestock, their anguished howls echoing across the empty landscape they were being forced to abandon. The crystal released her, and Sarah found herself back in the heart chamber, tears streaming down her face. Fira placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Now you understand why we fight," the old Vorthak said softly. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. "I had no idea it was this bad." "Touch another crystal, child," Vera urged gently. "See the full truth." Sarah moved to another memory crystal, this one darker still. The visions that flooded her mind showed labor camps where Vorthak children worked in dangerous mines, their natural strength exploited by human overseers who saw them as convenient tools rather than thinking beings. She saw families separated across star systems, parents dying of grief while their children grew up believing humans were the only civilized species in the galaxy. She witnessed the systematic destruction of Vorthak culture, their language forbidden, their customs banned, their very identity stripped away piece by piece. But the worst memories were the experiments. Human scientists studying captured Vorthak like laboratory animals, trying to understand their enhanced abilities through invasive procedures. Sarah recognized some of the equipment from her own laboratory, and the realization made her physically sick. When the visions finally ended, Sarah collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed by the weight of what she had witnessed. "How can you even consider peace with us?" she asked through her tears. "After everything we've done to your people?" Vera knelt beside her, her ancient eyes full of compassion. "Because you are not them, child. You carry their scent but not their spirit. And because," she paused, touching another crystal, "we have memories of humans who tried to help." This new vision showed a different scene. A human woman in medical clothes secretly treating injured Vorthak prisoners, risking her career to provide comfort to beings she had been told were monsters. A human soldier refusing orders to fire on fleeing families, accepting court-martial rather than participate in genocide. "Not all your people are without honor," Vera said gently. "We remember the ones who chose compassion over cruelty. You are like them." Sarah wiped her eyes and stood on shaking legs. What would peace look like? After all this suffering, what could possibly make it right? Vera led her to one final crystal, this one glowing with warm, hopeful light. "Touch this one and see what could be." The vision that emerged was different from the others. It showed Vorthak and human children playing together in gardens that combined the best of both species' biotechnology. She saw joint research stations where human quantum computers worked in harmony with Vorthak bioneural networks, creating technologies neither species could achieve alone. The memory showed cities that breathed like living things, powered by renewable bioenergy, where humans and Vorthak worked side by side as equals. She saw the return of stolen children, now grown, helping to rebuild the bridges between their peoples. "This is what we dream of," Vera said as the vision faded. "Not revenge, not dominance, but partnership. Your people's drive to explore and understand, combined with our harmony with living systems. Together we could heal not just the wounds between us, but the damage both our species have done to the galaxy." Sarah felt something shift inside her, a determination stronger than anything she had ever experienced. "How do we make this real?" "You return to your people," Vera replied. "You tell them what you have seen. You find others who believe in the dream of partnership rather than conquest, and you help us prove that peace is possible." Thorin's voice rumbled from behind them. "If you truly wish to serve peace, Dr. Chen, we have a proposal." Sarah turned to face the Pack Alpha, wiping the last tears from her cheeks. "What kind of proposal?" "Return to your Federation," Thorin said, "but not as their agent. Return as our ambassador." Speak for our people with the authority of one who has lived among us, learned from us, shared our pain and our hopes. The magnitude of what he was suggesting hit Sarah like a physical blow. You want me to represent the Vorthak to humanity? We want you to represent truth, Kale said, stepping up beside his leader. The truth about what we are, what we've suffered, and what we could become together. Sarah thought about her comfortable life as a Federation scientist, her career, her reputation, everything she would be giving up. Then she thought about the children in both visions, the stolen ones crying for parents they would never see again, and the hopeful ones playing together in gardens of possibility. I'll do it, she said without hesitation, but I'll need proof. Evidence that your people are truly willing to forgive, to work toward peace despite everything that's been done to you. Thorin smiled, showing his fangs in an expression that was somehow warm rather than threatening. What greater proof could there be than this conversation? You have seen our worst memories, witnessed our deepest pain, and yet you sit here alive and unharmed, treated as an honored guest rather than an enemy. More than that, Vera added, we offer you something no human has ever been given. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small, intricately carved pendant that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. A life bond crystal. It will allow you to speak with the authority of the pack, to prove that you truly represent our people. Sarah accepted the pendant with shaking hands. It was warm to the touch, and she could feel it somehow connecting with her nervous system. It is a great honor, Kyle explained. No outsider has ever been granted pack bond status. It means you are family now, Sarah friend. Our joys are your joys, our sorrows your sorrows. And our enemies, Thoran added meaningfully, are also your enemies. Choose carefully, Dr. Chen. Once you accept this bond, there is no going back. You will be Vorthak in all but blood. Sarah looked around at the assembled aliens who had shown her such trust, such hope for a better future. She thought about the Federation officers who would call her a traitor, the colleagues who would shun her, the comfortable life she was about to abandon. Then she thought about the children. I accept, she said firmly, placing the pendant around her neck. I am Sarah Chen, pack friend to the Vorthak, ambassador of truth and enemy of injustice. The assembled Vorthak let out a harmonious howl that seemed to shake the very walls of the ship. Sarah's return to Federation space was anything but smooth. The moment her Vorthak shuttle approached the border patrol station, she found herself surrounded by military vessels with weapons charged and ready to fire. Unknown vessel? You are ordered to surrender immediately, came the harsh voice over the communications channel. Prepare to be boarded. Sarah activated the shuttle's transmitter, feeling the life bond crystal pulse against her chest as it enhanced her ability to communicate. This is Dr. Sarah Chen, Federation xenobiologist, requesting safe passage. I carry important diplomatic information. Dr. Chen was reported missing and presumed dead. The patrol commander replied suspiciously. Provide proper identification codes. Sarah transmitted her personal identification, though she knew it would raise more questions than it answered. She had been gone for 3 months, living among the Vorthak and learning their ways. Her appearance had changed. Her hair was longer, her skin marked with the ceremonial tattoos that marked her as pack friend, and her clothes were a blend of human and Vorthak design. The boarding party that entered her shuttle was heavily armed and clearly nervous. Their leader, a stern-faced colonel named Morrison, studied Sarah with obvious suspicion. Dr. Chen, you've been declared dead for over 2 months. Where have you been? Learning, Sarah replied simply. Learning things that could prevent a war and save thousands of lives on both sides. Morrison's eyes narrowed as he noticed the pendant around her neck. Is that some kind of alien device? It's a symbol of trust, Sarah explained. The Vorthak have agreed to peace negotiations, but only if they can trust the human representative to speak truthfully about their terms. You're working for them now? Morrison's hand moved toward his weapon. I'm working for peace, Sarah corrected firmly. The Vorthak are not the monsters we've been told they are. They're a sophisticated people with advanced technology and legitimate grievances against Federation policies. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks, during which Sarah was kept under constant guard. She used the time to compile her research into a comprehensive report, documenting everything she had learned about Vorthak culture, technology, and capabilities. More importantly, She prepared evidence of Federation war crimes that could no longer be ignored. When they reached Earth, Sarah found herself in the middle of a political firestorm. The news of her return had leaked, and protesters filled the streets outside Federation headquarters. Some demanded her arrest as a traitor, while others called her a hero for surviving captivity among the aliens. She was immediately taken to a secure facility for debriefing, where she faced a panel of Federation officials who seemed more interested in discrediting her story than hearing her message. "Dr. Chen," began Admiral Harrison, the Federation's military commander, "you've been missing for months, presumably held captive by hostile aliens. It's understandable that you might feel some sympathy for your captors." "They weren't my captors," Sarah replied patiently. "They were my hosts. I was free to leave at any time. Yet you chose to stay among beings who have killed thousands of Federation citizens," sneered General Patricia Webb, Dr. Webb's sister, and a hardline military officer. "That suggests either severe psychological trauma or willing collaboration with the enemy." Sarah felt the life bond crystal grow warm as her anger rose. "The only trauma I experienced was learning the truth about Federation colonial policies. Did you know that we've been taking Vorthak children as slave laborers? That we've destroyed entire cultures for the sake of resource extraction? Those are propaganda lies fed to you by your alien handlers," Admiral Harrison dismissed. Sarah activated her datapad and projected the evidence she had gathered. "These are Federation military reports documenting forced relocations, labor conscription, and cultural suppression programs. Your own records, Admiral." The room fell silent as the damning evidence played out in holographic detail. Financial records showing payments for indigenous labor acquisition, military reports describing the pacification of Vorthak settlements, medical files detailing experiments on captured alien subjects. "Where did you get these files?" General Webb demanded. "From Federation databases," Sarah replied. "The Vorthak bioneural networks are capable of interfacing with our computer systems in ways we never imagined. They've been watching us just as carefully as we've been watching them." The implications of that statement sent a ripple of unease through the panel. If the aliens could access Federation computers, their entire intelligence network was compromised. "You've given classified information to enemy forces," Admiral Harrison accused. "That's treason." "I've shared the truth with people who deserve to know it," Sarah countered. "And I've brought back an offer of peace that could end this conflict before it destroys both our civilizations." She stood and activated another projection, this one showing the vision Vera had shared with her of humans and Vorthak working together. "Look at what we could accomplish together," she said passionately. "Their biotechnology combined with our quantum systems could revolutionize everything from medicine to space travel. Instead of fighting over resources, we could create abundance for everyone." "Pretty pictures," General Webb scoffed, "but the Vorthak are killers. They've attacked our colonies, destroyed our ships." "In self-defense," Sarah replied. "After we started stealing their children and destroying their sacred sites. If aliens invaded Earth and started kidnapping human children, wouldn't we fight back?" The question hung in the air, unanswered but uncomfortable. Dr. Elizabeth Carter, the Federation's chief xenobiologist and Sarah's former mentor, finally spoke up. "What exactly are the Vorthak offering?" Sarah felt a surge of hope. Dr. Carter had always been a voice of reason in Federation politics. "Complete cessation of hostilities," Sarah began. "Return of all captured personnel on both sides. Establishment of neutral zones where neither species will attempt expansion. And most importantly, the formation of joint research initiatives to develop technologies that benefit everyone." "And what do they want in return?" Admiral Harrison asked suspiciously. "Acknowledgement of their sovereignty over their traditional territories, reparations for families whose children were taken, and prosecution of Federation officials responsible for war crimes." The last demand caused an uproar among the panel members. General Webb slammed her hand on the table. "We don't negotiate with terrorists, and we certainly don't prosecute our own people to satisfy alien demands." "Even when those people are guilty of genocide?" Sarah asked quietly. The room fell silent again. The word hung between them like a blade. Dr. Carter leaned forward. "Sarah, you're asking us to completely restructure our relationship with the outer colonies." The economic implications alone would be staggering. The alternative is a war we can't win, Sarah replied. The Vorthak bioships can interface with our computer systems, adapt to our weapons, and reproduce faster than we can build replacements. They're not just winning battles, Dr. Carter. They're evolving specifically to counter our technology. She projected another display showing Vorthak fleet movements and technological adaptations. Every engagement makes them stronger and us weaker. In another year, they'll be capable of striking directly at Earth itself. The panel exchanged worried glances. They had been told the war was going well, that the alien threat was contained. What guarantee do we have that they'll honor this peace agreement? Admiral Harrison asked. Sarah touched the life bond crystal around her neck. I am their guarantee, she said simply. And they are mine. The crystal allows them to monitor my emotional state, to know if I'm being coerced or if the Federation is negotiating in bad faith. Similarly, I can sense their intentions through the pack bond. You've allowed them to put some kind of alien device inside your body? General Webb was aghast. I've accepted a responsibility to bridge two species, Sarah corrected. To be a living symbol that cooperation is possible. Dr. Carter stood and moved closer to examine the crystal. The bioneural interface, it's incredible. How is it powered? It draws energy from my own nervous system, Sarah explained. But it also enhances certain cognitive functions. I can process information faster, understand complex emotional states, even communicate telepathically with other crystal bearers. You're becoming one of them, Admiral Harrison said with disgust. I'm becoming something new, Sarah replied. Something that might be humanity's best hope for survival. The debate continued for hours, but Sarah could sense the tide slowly turning. The evidence was too overwhelming, the threat too real, and the potential benefits too great to ignore. Finally, Dr. Carter made the proposal that would change everything. I move that we establish a formal diplomatic mission to negotiate with the Vorthak leadership. Dr. Chen will serve as our primary ambassador, given her unique understanding of their culture. Seconded, said another panel member. Admiral Harrison looked around the room, reading the mood of his colleagues. All in favor? 6 hands rose, including Dr. Carter's. Only General Webb and one other hardliner voted against. Motion carried, Admiral Harrison announced reluctantly. Dr. Chen, you have 1 month to arrange preliminary peace talks. God help us all if you're wrong about this. I'm not. 5 years after the first peace talks, Sarah stood in the observation deck of the Joint Research Station New Harmony, watching human and Vorthak children play together in the zero-gravity recreation area. The sight never failed to fill her with wonder and pride. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, its living biohull grown from Vorthak shipfriend technology and enhanced with human quantum computational systems. It pulsed gently with bioluminescent patterns that indicated the station's health and mood, while holographic displays showed the incredible discoveries being made by joint research teams. Ambassador Chen, came a familiar rumbling voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Kale approaching, now bearing the ceremonial scars of a diplomatic pack leader. His own life bond crystal, crafted to match hers, glowed softly against his chest. Pack brother Kale, Sarah replied with a warm smile, using the formal address that had evolved for their unique partnership. How did the medical trials go? Beyond all expectations, Kale replied, his fanged grin infectious. Dr. Petrov's quantum-enhanced healing matrix combined with our bioneural healing fungi has reduced trauma recovery time by 80%. The first human patients are already requesting to join the trial program. Sarah nodded, remembering the early skepticism from both species about medical cooperation. Now, Vorthak biohealers worked alongside human doctors in hospitals across the Federation, while human medical technology helped Vorthak warriors recover from injuries that would once have been permanent. And the agricultural project? Sarah asked. The living cities are exceeding all projections, Kale reported proudly. The fusion of human hydroponic systems with our growth song cultivation has increased food production by 300% while using 60% fewer resources. Colony worlds that were once barely sustainable are now exporting surplus crops. Through the observation window, Sarah could see one of the new colony ships preparing for departure. These vessels were grown rather than built. They're biomechanical, systems capable of adapting to any environment, while their human-designed navigation systems could plot courses through space with unprecedented precision. Sometimes I can hardly believe how far we've come, Sarah mused. The path was not always smooth, Kyle reminded her gently. Sarah nodded, remembering the difficult early years. There had been terrorist attacks from human supremacist groups who saw cooperation with aliens as betrayal. Vorthak extremists had targeted human settlements, claiming that peace meant the loss of their warrior heritage. Both governments had struggled with hardliners who preferred the certainty of war to the challenges of partnership. The breakthrough had come when the first mixed crew of humans and Vorthak had encountered the Devourers, a machine intelligence that consumed entire star systems to fuel its expansion. Neither species alone could have stood against such a threat, but together they had developed weapons and strategies that turned back the invasion. The war with the Devourers changed everything, Sarah said. Nothing unites former enemies like a common threat. It was more than shared danger. Kale disagreed thoughtfully. It was shared purpose. When humans and Vorthak fought side by side, we learned that we were stronger together than apart. Sarah's communication device chimed softly. Dr. Carter's voice filled the air, calling from Earth. Sarah, we've received the report from the Centauri expedition. You're going to want to see this. A holographic display materialized, showing the joint exploration team that had been investigating strange signals from the Centauri system. Sarah's breath caught as she saw what they had discovered. A derelict city, she whispered, but not built by any known species. The images showed massive structures that seemed to blend organic and technological elements in ways that neither human nor Vorthak technology could achieve. The architecture suggested a civilization that had mastered the integration of biology and physics in ways that made even their joint achievements look primitive. The preliminary scans indicate the city has been abandoned for approximately 50,000 years, Dr. Carter continued. But some of the systems are still functional. The exploration team reports that the city's central intelligence is trying to communicate with them. Kale's ears perked up with excitement. An ancient civilization that predates both our species. Think of what we could learn from them. Sarah felt a familiar thrill of discovery, the same excitement that had driven her to study alien species in the first place. But now it was enhanced by the knowledge that humanity and the Vorthak would face this mystery together. There's more, Dr. Carter's voice continued. The city's AI has been broadcasting a signal into deep space. We think it's a beacon, calling to someone or something. Calling to whom? Sarah asked. That's what we need to find out. Sarah, I'm authorizing a full joint expedition to Centauri. I want you and Kyle to lead the diplomatic team. Sarah looked at her pack brother, seeing her own excitement reflected in his golden eyes. When do we leave? The new bioship Harmony's Dream will be ready for departure in 2 weeks. She's the largest joint vessel ever grown, with quarters for 100 researchers from both species. As the communication ended, Sarah and Kale stood, together in comfortable silence, watching the children play. One group was building something with blocks that seemed to respond to their touch, while another was painting with light brushes that created three-dimensional artworks in mid-air. A new mystery to solve, Kale said softly. A new challenge to face together. I wonder what other species we'll encounter out there, Sarah mused. What other partnerships might be possible? With the foundation we've built between our peoples, anything is possible, Kale replied. The universe is vast, Sarah friend. There is room for many different kinds of life, many different ways of thinking and being. Sarah touched her life bond crystal, feeling the warm pulse of connection that linked her to the entire Vorthak pack network. Through it, she could sense the excitement and anticipation of thousands of beings across dozens of worlds, all united in the pursuit of knowledge and the dream of a peaceful galaxy. You know what I think? She said, grinning at her alien friend. I think we're just getting started. As if in response to her words, the biostation's hull pulsed with a warm, golden light that spread throughout the structure. The children in The recreation area paused in their play to watch the beautiful display, then returned to their activities with the casual acceptance of a generation that had grown up expecting miracles. Through the observation window, Sarah could see the Harmony's dream taking shape in the construction bays, her living hull growing from a seed core no bigger than a basketball into a vessel that would carry hope and curiosity to the stars. Human engineers worked alongside Vorthak life shapers, their different approaches to technology creating something that was greater than the sum of its parts. The universe doesn't know what's coming, Sarah said with a laugh. A pack of curious humans and Vorthak, armed with good intentions and superior technology, Kyle agreed, his rumbling chuckle harmonizing with hers. The universe should probably be worried. As the station rotated toward its night cycle, bioluminescent pathways began to glow along the corridors, guiding residents home. Human families passed Vorthak pack groups in the hallways, exchanging friendly greetings in the hybrid language that had evolved from years of cooperation. Children of both species attended the same schools, learning mathematics from human teachers and harmony singing from Vorthak elders. They played games that combined human creativity with Vorthak pack tactics, creating entertainment that neither species could have imagined alone. In the medical bays, elderly humans received bioneural treatments that extended their lives, while aged Vorthak benefited from human prosthetics that restored their mobility. The boundaries between the species were becoming increasingly blurred as they shared not just knowledge but life itself. Sarah made her way to her quarters, a space that reflected her dual nature as both human scientist and Vorthak pack friend. Human scientific instruments sat alongside Vorthak memory crystals, while living walls pulsed gently with the same rhythm as her heartbeat. As she prepared for sleep, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From a nervous xenobiologist studying a caged alien to an ambassador bridging two species, she had become something she never could have imagined. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, new opportunities to build bridges between different forms of life. The expedition to Centauri would open doors to possibilities they couldn't yet imagine. But tonight, as she felt the gentle pulse of the life bond crystal against her chest and sensed the contentment of thousands of beings across the star network, Sarah Chen knew that the most important discovery had already been made. They had learned that differences weren't barriers to be overcome, but strengths to be celebrated. That fear could be replaced with understanding and hatred with hope. Most importantly, they had learned that the universe was big enough for everyone to find their place among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same again, and that was exactly as it should be.